NPLs, all of us knew there was a lot of NPLs in the infrastructure area. They've all come out. Due to that, earnings have got downgraded. Do you think that the earnings in the last 1 year, the markets have not given big returns, particularly in large cap? Why are people worried about earnings? Because of three reasons. One reason is because you have a situation where most of the oil and other related areas, actually the stocks have actually fallen, the prices have fallen. Due to that, earnings have actually fallen. And is it good for the country? It's very good for the country. Do we need to bother that oil is at 45 and due to that earnings are lower in a set of companies? Certainly we shouldn't bother. The second is due to NPLs, a lot of bank earnings have come down. Is it better now and safer now than 1 year back? Certainly, because the earnings degrowth has already happened. And the third is you have two bad monsoons. On the other hand, you have a phenomenal monsoon this year. So I think these three factors are actually showing up in these earnings and this worry about valuations. I don't worry, but having said that, are we dirt cheap valuation? Certainly not. We're certainly not that cheap. But at the same time, from an economic cycle point of view, clearly we have a few years where things can be better.
Okay, since you spoke about financials, NBFCs have had a remarkable run, led by something like a Bajaj Finance. Now, you could argue that the return on equity has been too strong, and they continue to grow their book every 20-25% every year, or you could say that things have got too overheated. In which camp would you be purely for the NBFC names?
See, I think clearly what has happened, if you look at the benchmark has such a high weightage in financials. And a number of people don't want to invest in certain financials. So they go and choose some other stocks in the same sector. So you could have some overvalued NBFCs at this point of time, which is clearly the case at this point of time. But over the next 3 years, I think the good quality NBFCs will separate from the weaker quality NBFCs.
You have been a Contra investor in the past, Naren. I remember you had bought Sun Pharma, a couple of pharma stocks when real estate was at its peak, and you turned underweight on some of the pharma names when some of these stocks hit record highs. What goes behind this process of being a Contra investor? Because Contra calls can go horribly wrong.
See, one is, what Seth Klarman, the investment guru, says. You have to be a contrarian, but you should have a calculator. And so that's what I believe in. So, you look at contrarian opportunities. Contrarian doesn't mean buying every stock in the market. You try to assess where the outlook is, what the companies are doing, and then you look at it. So I think essentially when you are managing large sums of money, there's not much of a choice but for you to be partially contrarian. If you look at Warren Buffett, when did he invest? He invested large sums of money between 2008 and 2011. That was clearly the best period because that was a contrarian period. Yes. In 2007, did you hear him making big acquisitions? The answer is no. So I would say that, as the sums of money that we manage become larger, we have to be contrarian in our approach. Having said that, we can be contrarian in our approach, but we have to do the right work. It doesn't mean you go and buy a junk infrastructure stock. Yeah. And you have to avoid the lemons in contrarian thinking. So that's something we have to do as a continuous process, and that's what we do.
So contra thinking does not work always. You have to arrive at particular time where you go contra.
See, you have to do research on the sector where you're going contrarian. If you're not willing to do enough research on the stock that you're buying as a contrarian buyer or on the company and the sector, then you will go horribly wrong. And I think the key, for example, if you look at what Warren Buffett did, he chose Goldman and GE to invest in 2008. He chose Bank of America to invest in 2011. That was contrarian, but he had done his calculations. You can't be just contrarian. You have to do your calculations.
Okay, and you can catch this exclusive conversation all through the day, and of course, this entire show will be played over the weekend. We'll take a break.